right, so we are going to program this using CodePen, just like we did last time. So I'm going to go into a web browser and type codepen.io, just like we did last time. Now, you're probably not still logged in. Maybe you are. If you are, then you don't have to do this step part, but you otherwise need to log in like I do. So all you do is just click the login button up here in the right corner. And then you either log in with one of these, if that's how you set up your account, or you type in your username/email address and the password. If you've forgotten the password, naturally you can go through the forgot password flow and just type in your email here and it will send a password reset email to you. You can then reset the password, type in a new one twice or whatever, and then use that here once you've reset the password. So basically, come back when you're logged in and we'll continue. All right. Hopefully you got to here after you logged in. You may have to click your work instead of trending or following whatever it puts you on. But you probably see whatever programs you've worked on before. That might be the Monty Hall problem if you were following along last time. And we're going to make a new pen, as they call it, a new program. So I'm going to click this up and down arrow here and just click pen here. And I am going to change my view mode up here to this left one. I kind of like my code on the left. And I'm going to kind of scroll this off to the, give us enough room here. That would be nice. And I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this 100 students problem. Yeah, that sounds good. And I'm going to click save just to make sure this thing actually is saved. Oh, it made my boxes small again. That is sad. But at least it'll save now easily and automatically. Yeah, somewhere around here is probably fine. Okay. And then we're going to type in our HTML, just like we did last time. Just like we did last time, I find it useful to put some stuff in the HTML that just looks about what I want it to show up as in the end product, but without anything actually working. So just start writing some text of what you wish were there, fill in some values of how you kind of want it to look, and then start slowly but surely replacing those values with really computed values. Okay, so what do I actually need to know in order to play this game? Well, this is the 100 students problem, but we're going to actually allow the person to say how many students they want to try this with. Remember in our example from the slides, we allowed 4 students and kind of ran that through and saw different probabilities. So it'd be nice to be able to play around with the number of students and have the game actually work, even if we try this with 4 students or even with 10,000 students. So let's do that first. I'm going to type number of students here, but I'm going to put it in a paragraph tag. If you remember right from last time, that's less than p greater than. That starts a new paragraph in HTML. And then I'm going to say number of students, 100, and then close the paragraph tag with something that looks like the opening paragraph tag, but with a slash before the letters. So less than /p greater than. Okay. What do I want to know besides the number of students? Well, we also want to know the strategy we're going to use. We've discussed 3 strategies in terms of mentioning the third one. I mentioned the just do completely random. Well, have them, the first half of the students choose the even boxes, let's say, and the next half choose the other half choose the odd boxes. So there's 2 strategies right there. And I mentioned the mystery third strategy that gets us bigger than 30% all the time. So, we should probably let the person tell us what strategy they want to use. Strategy, and that would be like random as a default choice, but there will be other ones. And just like I mentioned about the Monte Carlo method, where we just try this 10,000 times, that's what our program's going to do this analysis. But we might want to change it just like we did last time. We might want to run it fewer times or more times. So we want a third input here, which is number of iterations. This will be how many times the game is played in order to compute the probability of a win. So if I run 10,000 is a pretty standard number for Monte Carlo simulations. I'm going to close the paragraph tag here. And the idea being that if we run the game 10,000 times and we got the students winning 5,000 of those times, then the percent chance of winning is roughly 50%. Well, exactly 50% in that case. But remember, Monte Carlo is all about estimating probabilities. We run it a certain number of times and we hopefully get somewhere close to the right probability. The more times we run it, the closer we'll start narrowing in on the actual probability if we ran it an infinite number of times, which we can't do because computers don't do that. So that's our 3 inputs. We also do want a button here. If you remember right, there's a button tag. So this is different from the paragraph tag. It's less than button, greater than. And this is going to be our run button. Like, we've given you our inputs. I'm going to close my button tag with a slash button inside less than and greater than sign. So this button, of course, does nothing right now. I can click it and it's like, yeah, okay, that does nothing. But the idea is that when we click this button, after we've set our inputs, we want it to run 10,000 times with 100 students with the strategy random and give us a probability. What's the chance of this actually happening? What's the chance of 100 students actually winning with the random strategy? So we are going to want one more block of text here, which is, please tell me the output. How many times did you win? So paragraph tag wins. And, you know, if there were 5,000, like I said, out of 10,000, then that would be 50%. So I'm just kind of filling this in how I want it to look. And, you know, hopefully all is well here. I've closed my paragraph tag and I can see all this text on the right here. It's just, you know, been following along with me. Like last time, I might just want to adjust the style of this a bit. This is a bit small for me. So I'm going to come over here and say, you know what? I wish my paragraph and button tags were a bit bigger. So if you recall from last time in CSS, that means I just say I want my p tag, comma, my button tag. And then I always give the changes to the style in curly braces. So I hit curly brace and it fills in the closed curly brace for me. I hit enter and it's font size that I care about in this case. Font size. And if you recall from last time again, there's a lot of recalling, right? There's something called REM. One REM is really just like 100% size. 1.2 REM would be then a little bit bigger than the current size. So I'm going to say 1.2 REM like we did last time, and you'll notice the text gets bigger. All right, so we've got our basic analysis page up, but I can't actually change any of these inputs, right? If I want to type in 99 or 98, I guess I want an even number of students if I'm going to be letting them open half the boxes generally. I can't type anything in here. I can't choose a strategy. So just like last time, we actually have to add some other tags to make these things changeable on the page. So let's do that. Let's make the number of students actually settable. I'm going to replace this 100 here with an input tag. Now, if you recall correctly how the input works, it just has no closing tag. You'll see as soon as I just made the opening tag here, input, without a less than slash input close, it's already made the box for me and I can type things in here, right? That's cool. Now, usually you want a default value, so I can say space value equals quotes or double quotes here, 100. And then you'll notice that when that saves, that is the default value that starts in that box. So effectively, we replace our just plain 100 text with this input HTML tag, and we give it the value attribute is what these things are called. They're inside the less than or greater than signs. So all this kind of just recap from last time. If you recall correctly from last time too, it's kind of nice if I don't allow myself to type in random letters that are not numbers. So for instance, right now I can say 100 ABC, which is kind of not a number, at least not decimal number. So I can say type equals number here. And now I cannot, you'll have to trust me, I'm pressing the letters A, B, and C, and it's not working. Also, it added this cool little like up and down thing for me if I want to, just do that instead. It's probably easier to type in the number. Just as with last time, I'll remind you that you can still type the letter E because that's exponential notation. So if I say 100 E10, that is a very big number because that means times 10 to the 10th power. If I said times E8, that's times 10 to the 8th power. So that's a 1 with a lot of zeros. That's a ton of students. Yeah, so just FYI, the E here has special meaning. It's actually still a number. But we will not be using that. Okay, so far so good. Let's update our strategy too. Well, if you remember right, there was another HTML tag that we wanted to use when we have a choice, a selection, not just a number or something we're going to type, but one of a number of options. And that's the select tag. So I'm going to actually hit the enter key, get rid of the word random here, and hit the enter key here. So I'm going to give myself some space because this one takes a bit more space. Hit enter and say select. And I'm going to say option. So this is a kind of a tag that always comes with another tag. There's a select tag that always has several option tags inside of it. So option 1 is going to be random. I close the option tag, unlike input, and a few others like image. I'm going to make a second option, which is, random 2, etc. These would all just show up. Right now, I'm just making that up. We're going to fill this in with something real in a second. And then eventually, I close the select tag, right? So let's see what this did. Well, there we go. I got random and random 2. I can actually select these and all goes well. It just holds on random or random 2. All right. And that's it for select. We're going to go down here to number of iterations. And we're going to replace this just like we did the first one with the input tag. Input type equals number. Value equals the default, which is going to be 10,000 for this one. And again, remember, input doesn't have a closing tag, so that's fine. And notice now we have this nice number, and we can't type in A, B, and C, and the default is still 10,000. So that's good. We've actually made all of these editable, and all is well. We'll notice, though, that these are a little bit small. That's kind of annoying. So we should probably go over here and also make our input and select tag bigger as well. So I'm going to say comma input, comma select. Now everything's big and with the right style that I want. Now, also from last time, you'll remember that all of our inputs, we want to have IDs on them so that we can use that document.getElementById function in JavaScript to grab the value from HTML. So I'm just going to name all these right now, give them a unique ID, because remember, IDs have to be unique across the entire HTML document. So I'm going to say this one is ID equals, what should we call this one? Num students. I'm going to use dashes here. Oops, I forgot my quotes. There. So that ID num dash students is going to be how I grab this input. If I type in a 50 here, that's how I'll get the number 50 into my JavaScript program. Similarly, the select is going to have an ID. So this is ID equals strategy. Okay. And then this one is ID equals num iterations. I could say number iterations here and number students, or however, I could name these things anything I want. It's just this needs to be a unique string that is going to represent this input value in my code. Similarly, we are going to come down here like we had done last time and actually put a span tag in here to allow us to set this text from JavaScript. So I'm going to say span ID equals wins, and then close span tag over here. So notice that didn't change anything. I added all these IDs. I even added a span tag. If you recall, span tags don't do anything, but they're kind of a nice anchor or placeholder in your text that can allow you in JavaScript to grab the text inside here and change it to whatever you want. Now, just like last time, we had set all of our span tags to have the bold and blue style. I'm going to do the same thing here just so that our outputs are very obvious. In this case, we have one, so it's not that, interesting, but I'm going to come down here just in CSS and say span. There's my curly braces, hit enter, and then font weight is how I set things like bold, and I just type the word bold here. And then color, blue. And here you'll see that this now stands out a bit as like, this is your result. This is what you're really looking for.